They're fighting back with that new Cobra FANG.
Cobra!
Cobra FANG's a jet flying fast and low, and a fighting cops are out hunting for Joe.
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle.
We're continuing all sorts of things today. We're continuing Small Vehicles and Playset Summer. We're continuing our look at FANG toys.
And I'm continuing something that started on another channel.
For HEC 788, July has always been Cobra month, and since he's on a break, I'm unofficially appointing myself sort of the custodian of Cobra month for this year. So, all of July, we'll be taking a look at Cobra vehicles, keeping that fine tradition going. And today, I'm sinking my teeth into the FANG Mark II.
Look, a bad joke about teeth was inevitable. I'm just surprised it took this long.
So meet the Cobra FANG Mark II. This vehicle was released in 1989 with all original parts. And, this thing is quite a departure from the original, isn't it?
Look, Hasbro is no stranger to releasing second versions of vehicles.
But they usually follow the design of the original, like with the FANG Mark II that uses most of the original molds, or the HISS II that still has the basic shape of a HISS tank. But here, you really have to look for any similarities. I mean, it still has red missiles, I guess, and a multi-directional gun, though it's on a swivel and a hinge now, so there's no unique ball joint design, which is a pity. Oh, and parts of it are still black?
Good?
Plus, it does continue the, safety feature of leaving the pilot exposed to enemy fire.
But let's take a look at the thing on its own merits.
The first word that springs to mind when looking at this is bat. No, I mean the actual animal. It has a very bat-like look to it, so much so that I could see Batman using it. This is helped by the decal being the Cobra Air Force logo, which is the Cobra symbol with bat wings behind it, first used on the Rattler, I believe. It certainly is quirky and unique looking, and that's not a bad thing.
It stands out, but in a good way.
I dig the color scheme of purple, red and black. You know what? Given these colors, maybe it could also work as a vehicle for the Joker designed to mock Batman.
Oh, okay, you got me.
I just wanted to show off these neat DC figures that are in scale with G.I.Joe.
There are a few play features.
There's the aforementioned multi-directional gun and a whopping 6 missiles for weapons, so this thing packs a punch. The main feature are the engines and propeller blades. Both can move 360 degrees, and there's a wheel on top of the toy that'll rotate the engines. But since you can move them by touch anyway, this does seem a bit redundant to me.
This also brings us to the bad points of the FANG II.
As the engines can get a bit loose, making it difficult to keep them in the position you want. Especially if, for example, you need to pose them in a bunch of different ways for a video review. Also, there's nothing to support the thing in the back, so it has a tendency to slip backwards while handling it. Like again, for example, if you have to handle it a bunch for a video review.
Can you tell that this episode was a bit frustrating to work on?
And while having 6 missiles is cool, it also means you've got 6 missiles you can lose. In fact, when I pulled this thing off my shelves for the episode, I discovered I had put 4 missiles from that Devastator on there.
Luckily, I found the 4 correct ones in my box of missiles.
Lastly, while I personally dig the look of the toy, I can totally understand that some people would be put off by it, especially since it's so much different compared to the original. Overall, this is a fun and neat little vehicle, though I'll admit it can be an acquired taste. And this was the only time the toy mold was used. There are, of course, other later toys called the FANG, but they are more like the original.
That means it's time to talk about the character, starting with the file card. Aren't you glad that's back?
Okay, what I meant was, let's start with the box and the name. It's called the FANG II, but notice the not so subtle difference with the original name. This one's not an acronym. Well, except in Argentina, where it was produced by Plastirama.
But that doesn't count.
I guess it's just a word now, because it wouldn't make sense to call it a gyrocopter, since this vehicle is more like a small twin-prop airplane. That means that it should also be faster than the original FANG, making it more troublesome that it has an open cockpit. I mean, forget bullets, you'd have bugs and not to mention birds coming at your face at a fairly worrying speed.
I really don't know why they insisted on calling this the FANG II.
Given the look of the thing, my theory is they wanted to call it a bat until it was pointed out that was already the name of the android troopers. Something I neglected to mention last week was the choice of pilot for the box art, so I'll fix that here. Since the FANG nor the FANG II came with a figure, they were free to pick whoever they wanted as the pilot. In the original's case, they went for a Cobra trooper. On the one hand, might have picked a Cobra officer since pilots tend to be officers. But on the other hand, there's that open cockpit, so perhaps cannon fodder is more appropriate. What is less appropriate is the pilot for the FANG II, which is a heat viper. You know, those guys that carry huge cannons and a bunch of rockets? This seems to be a waste of resources putting them on the FANG. Then again, since they had to pick a figure from the 1989 lineup, there wasn't that much of a choice that would be more appropriate. There could be the Alley Viper, maybe? I'm guessing they picked a Heat Viper since the vehicle has lots of missiles.
So it sort of fits that way?
Of course, since I'm not restrained by year as a collector, I'd use for an actual pilot a Strato Viper or something. But do let me know in the comments below who your favorite pilot is for the FANG and the FANG II.
As far as other media go, like with the original, I can be brief.
The FANG II showed up in the comic, in the background more or less, and it was in the Deke cartoon, but it never had a starring role in either. Still, it got about as much exposure as I feel it deserved. And that was the FANG II. It's a cool little vehicle where the worst thing I can say about it is that maybe it should have had a different name, since it's so different from the first.
You know, Cobra Month has been good to me.
We've been able to talk about one iconic vehicle and a very good one, so I've been able to be kind.
But I'm afraid that the milk of human kindness may have just run out. Well, I'll see you next time, everybody. And hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing?
They're biting back with that new Cobra FANG.
Cobra!
Cobra FANG's a jet flying past it low and a fighting copter out hunting for Joe.
Oh, God.